Thank you very much. It's really a privilege to be here and to be able to give this talk today. But before I start, a quick show of hands. Who here has a smartphone? That's what I thought. Pretty much everyone here. Smartphones are omnipresent in the same way that we kind of, all have a heart or a liver. But there are important differences between smartphones and organs that we need to keep in mind. When a smartphone breaks or malfunctions, it's an inconvenience. When it's an organ, it's an emergency. Unlike our smartphones, our organs don't usually come with replacement parts. I say usually because if we're lucky, we might get an organ transplant. But there's a catch. Before we can get an organ transplant, we first go on a waiting list. And that is not such a great place to be. According to the National Foundation Swiss Transplant, about 1 in 20 Swiss citizens will pass away while waiting for a suitable replacement organ. That's almost 2 a week. And still, the Swiss must consider themselves fortunate. They have access to world-class healthcare. Not too far away, across the Channel, in England, that number is closer to 21. And if we go just a bit further across the Atlantic in the States, it's even higher. The inconvenient truth is this. Although the number of successful organ transplants around the world is increasing, the demand for suitable organs still far outweighs the supply. And as we all look forward, hopefully, to a time where this is no longer the case, tonight I would like to ask you to also stop and take a moment to look back. The answer could just be in a history textbook. Now, growing up, I loved to read. I spent every waking moment with my nose in one book or another. I was a regular at my local library, and on more than one occasion, I even plundered my parents' library card so I could check out more books with each visit. My favorite sections, science, fiction, and history. And out of all the stories that I heard over the years and read and took up, the one that has stayed with me the longest and has been quite inspirational for me is the story of Prometheus. Now, I know not all of you are experts in Greek mythology, so as the story goes, after stealing fire from the gods and giving it to humanity so that we can cook our food and chase off the predators, Prometheus, for his heroism or defiance, was chained to a rock by Zeus and condemned to an eternity of suffering. Each day, an eagle would swoop down and pick out his liver, but each night, that liver would grow back. Now, what really inspired me about the story, sitting on the floor of that dusty library, was not the defiance or heroism on the part of Prometheus, or even the cruelty on the part of Zeus. No, what really fascinated me in that moment was the idea of tissue regeneration. At the time, it felt like pure fiction. Today, I'm here to tell you this is no longer the case. In the same way that Prometheus' liver was able to regenerate each night, our cells too hold the potential for regeneration. It's encoded into our very DNA. All we had to do was unlock this potential. And a few years ago, a few very clever scientists and researchers figured out exactly how to do this. So, how did they do it? Well, I'm sure you all know how reproduction works and how a single fertilized embryo can create a fully functional and healthy human being. These researchers did exactly the same thing, with one important difference. They did it in reverse. They turned back the biological clock and cells given to them by consenting donors and gave the cells back their pluripotency. Now, pluripotency is a very fancy name, but what does it mean? Well, it means that these cells were then once again able to become any of the 200 different tissue types we have in the human body. Very interesting, considering that these cells could now be used to fix any part of the body that was broken or malfunctioning by just simply taking its place. Or in other words, a very interesting way of dealing with our organ shortage problem. Now, these cells, of course, have a name. We refer to them as induced pluripotent stem cells, or iPSCs for short. Today, the process of manufacturing or creating these iPSCs is well understood. The real challenge lies in transforming the raw potential of these cells into real working therapies, the kind our bodies can actually use. So what's it going to take to make organs based on iPSCs a reality? I can promise you one thing. It's going to require a lot of diligent lab work and, in my experience, an unhealthy amount of caffeine. Just to give you an idea of what the process looks like. First, my team and I need to identify the exact conditions required to get a pluripotent cell back to the tissue that we actually want to give to the patient, whether this be an eye cell, skin cell, heart cell, kidney cell, doesn't matter. Once we've identified these conditions, it gets a bit more tricky because now we need to scale it up. Organs require quite a lot of cells, and we don't only want to treat one patient, we want to treat as many as possible. So we need to make sure that our process is not only realizable in a little flask like this, but in a bioreactor of that scale and if not bigger. Only once we've tackled scalability can we finally focus on the next aspects of the process which are important: reproducibility, affordability, and above all, patient safety. We want to make people healthy again, and we can only do that if our therapies are both safe and accessible to the people who need them most. People like Stephanie, a young mother who I recently talked to, who suffered complete kidney failure after giving birth. She is now on the waiting list and desperately waiting for an organ transplant. Accessibility really is key, and this is where our partners come in, our industrial partners. While we are a research institution and we apply the science and we do the development, our partners have access to manufacturing platforms and manufacturing sites and also logistical networks. They can make sure that what we are developing get to the people that need it most. So the final thing that my team and I need to do is we need to make sure that the process that we develop in our lab goes to the collaborators. That's a process transfer. And only once we've done this, we can call it a day. And just as we go to turn off the light in the lab, we realize one final important biological fact. Organs do not consist of a single tissue. They consist of multiple tissues all working towards a common goal. So it's back to the lab, by the coffee machine, for at least another 200 rounds of research. Obviously, there's much to be done. Far more than a single person or even team can do alone. We need your support. Doesn't matter if your passion lies in medicine, biology, engineering, logistics, or just helping people. We need you to come together across cultures, identities, and disciplines to do what matters most, to help us save lives. Organ failure doesn't discriminate. It can affect any one of us in a heartbeat. So please, while you have the strength, be curious and apply your talents and help us tackle the organ shortage problem. I can promise you we will not be carrying the torch alone. While we diligently work on making iPSC-based organs a reality, simple tissues based on iPSCs are really making their way into healthcare. A very interesting example comes from the CAR T-cell therapy space, or the cancer space. Thanks to CAR T-cells, which are immune cells, lymphoid cancer is no longer a death sentence. But manufacturing these life-saving therapies is extremely expensive. A new approach starts with iPSCs, drastically reducing the cost of manufacturing. Other examples of where iPSCs are being used to revolutionize healthcare comes from the Parkinson's space. iPSCs don't only have to be immune cells, they can be neurons or brain cells as well, which means that we can use these cells to replace the missing part which causes Parkinson, treating Parkinson. Or, for example, take on the role of the pancreas by creating insulin-producing cells for the treatment of type 1 diabetes. Taken together, these three therapies are also very indicative of a shift in healthcare, away from managing an illness to actually eliminating it. And in my opinion, this shift from managing to eliminating is nothing short of revolutionary. With iPSCs, the possibilities are endless, especially if well-funded. So I want you to imagine a world where you no longer have to wait for a donor heart or kidney. A world where organs can be grown, not only donated. With iPSCs, that world is fast approaching. Now, Prometheus' suffering finally ended when Heracles or Hercules freed him from his chains as part of one of his 12 labors. Prometheus was given a second chance. And just like Prometheus, tissues and organs based on iPSCs could give us all second chances. A chance to see again, a chance to run again, a chance to live a life not defined by a diagnosis. But this leap in healthcare is not going to happen by accident. It's going to require dreamers, innovators, and creators, people burning with a passion to change the world. So as we leave ancient history behind us tonight, I want you to ask yourself, will you be the spark that turns tissue regeneration from myth into reality? Will you be a part of the fire that re-engineers healthcare from the inside out? In my opinion, we owe it to the Stephanies of the world and ourselves to try. Thank you.